It's Thursday, July 19th. I'm Paul Joseph Watson. This is INFOWARS Nightly News. Coming up on the show.
Tonight on the INFOWARS Nightly News, 9/11 hijackers trained on U.S. military bases. Plus, bankers declare victory over the U.S. and Europe. They say we're conquered, we're done. Then Obamanoids and Obamanites converge on Austin, Texas to support the dictator-in-chief. All that and more on the INFOWARS and Nightly News. And remember, none of the graphics people, news investigators, camera people, or Alex Jones, or Paul Watson, or anybody else did any of this show tonight. The government did it.
First story tonight, human corpses harvested in multi-million-dollar trade. This is out the Sydney Morning Herald. A grisly trade in human body parts leaves relatives grieving and some recipients at risk of life-threatening diseases. On February 24th, Ukrainian authorities made an alarming discovery. Bones and other human tissues crammed into coolers in a grimy white minibus. Investigators grew even more intrigued when they found amid the body parts envelopes stuffed with cash and autopsy results written in English. What the security service had disrupted was not the work of a serial killer, but part of an international pipeline of ingredients for medical and dental products that are routinely implanted into people around the world. So basically, you know, another example of the sick world that we live in. Turns out that people are paying huge sums of money for body parts, which basically are used. This is pieces of dead bodies from people who have died. They've took the body parts, often without the relatives even knowing after the person's deceased. And people are buying them for breast and penis enlargements in different countries around the world. Multi-million-dollar trade. Just another sickening example. Of course, we know a lot of the undercover dark trade in human body parts is completely criminal and illegal. But even this commercial side of it just sickens you. But, you know, hey, when the Obama administration says it's okay for Pepsi to use fetal cells from aborted babies in their soft drinks, declaring it normal business practice, then how far down the rabbit hole do we need to go? You know, how long before we've got a situation like the movie The Island, where humans are cloned for spare body parts? That's the direction we're heading at the moment. And it's basically, you know, welcome to the scientific dictatorship. It's 2012, you know, we've got Bill Gates, who says he wants to reduce global population, funding people to dump tons of sulfur particles, 80,000 meters over New Mexico, and, you know, barely a whimper of dissent. We've got mad psychotic scientists in control. So it's no surprise that this human body parts market is flourishing at the moment with this latest story out of the Sydney Morning Herald. TSA signs off on flight school owned by illegal alien. Kurt Nimmo, Infowars.com. According to the GOA, the TSA approved flight instruction for more than 24 illegal aliens at a flight school in Boston owned by an illegal alien. 8 of the students entered the United States illegally, and 17 had overstayed their allotted time in the country. Remarkably, 6 of the illegal aliens were able to obtain pilot licenses. The illegal activity went undiscovered until the owner of the school was pulled over by local authorities for a traffic violation. It was then discovered he was in the country illegally. He had not undergone a required TSA security threat assessment and had not been approved for flight training by the agency. Despite this, the man held 2 FAA pilot licenses. And of course, we got the flashback story from just after 9/11, which, of course, 9/11 hijackers trained on U.S. military bases. And this, of course, was the story about how several of the hijackers, the named hijackers, the alleged hijackers, trained at U.S. bases. The owners of the flight schools attempted to alert the authorities before 9/11, and, of course, nothing was done. So now the TSA is approving flight training for illegal aliens at flight schools owned by illegal aliens. But don't worry, you know, they're still groping 5-year-old kids in wheelchairs. They're still harassing grandmother over her colostomy bag. They're still demanding to inspect your grandfather's ashes as they throw them on the floor and cackle, laugh while they're doing it. And, you know, they're doing such a great job, the TSA agents, that they're now being exported to London for the Olympic Games for our safety. And, you know, this story again. How many scandals, how many examples of corruption do we need to see with the TSA? There's 2 more today. There's literally a deluge every week. We can't even cover them all. But, you know, it shows you how rotten and corrupt America is when a federal agency that's embroiled in so many scandals constantly is not terminated, does not face censure over its activities. It's actually rewarded. Extra funding for checkpoints, you know, exporting TSA agents to London for the great job they do in groping 5-year-old kids in wheelchairs. And how far is it going to go? I mean, are we going to get to the stage where we've got Abu Ghraib-style torture and sexual humiliation by the TSA before Congress moves to shut it down? Just gets crazier and crazier. Illegal aliens with TSA approval training at flight schools owned by illegal aliens. That's not a problem. Your 5-year-old kid in a wheelchair, he's the problem. And speaking of illegal aliens, Lord Obama was gracious enough to pay the crew in Austin a visit yesterday. INFOWARS reporters were out on the street documenting how businesses were shut down, roads were closed off, and all the Obamanist worshippers were in attendance to kneel beneath their Lord, as they called for him to be imposed for a second term. So here's that report.
The fact that Obama has killed civilians in 6 countries overseas?
Oh, it was fabulous. We had our pictures taken with Obama.
Did you really?
Man, he's just a down-to-earth, friendly guy with good vibes.
What do you think about Sheriff Joe Arpaio's investigation into Obama's birth certificate?
I think it's just ridiculous. I think it's people who need something to talk about and something exciting in their lives. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
I like George Lopez's comments about that guy. I don't agree with the guy.
Yeah. You think he should just move on, or is he on to something, or something that just, is he doing it for political reasons?
Probably. I mean, I think he needs to move on with life and find something fun to do.
Well, you know, I've heard people say they've been abducted by flying saucers, too.
Maybe they were.
Maybe so.
Okay, what do you like about the president?
I like to say, as part of a person who has struggled with health care and my son's asthma effects, and I can't afford the health care, the Advair, then I would say his health care plan to support all Americans would be, to me, the #1.
Do you hate Arabs too? Is that why you support Obama? You like killing Arabs? Do you hate Africans and Asians? Is that why you support Obama?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay, there you go. At least you're honest. At least you're honest about killing innocent civilians overseas.
All right, we've got one that can see.
I'm here to just show my opposition to Obama's policies, how he's been shredding the Constitution with signing into law acts such as NDAA, pursuing these unconstitutional wars without as much of congressional approval.
People say that he's not doing enough. Well, who could?
When he was elected for the first time in a long time, I was proud to be an American again, because big government, it's kind of in order if you have a rather large country.
But the wars are expanding. Now we're in Libya, we're going into Syria, and we're going to Africa. That's different?
Okay, Bush declared war on Iraq, for 9/11, when all the terrorists were from Saudi Arabia.
But we weren't in Syria before. Now we're in Syria, now we're in Libya, now we're in Africa.
We have a few spots around there, but there's a lot going on there. But I don't think we have a war going on there right now. So I think when you use the word war for Libya and Syria, that's incorrect when referring to this country and Obama. There was a war in Afghanistan. There was a war in Iraq. Those are hot spots that you're talking about right now.
What do you know personally about war?
Well, I've been a veteran, and I've had friends who've died, lots of people who've been injured. My brother's gotten a Purple Heart, my dad's gotten a Purple Heart, and war is ugly, and unjust war is terrible, and we haven't been in a just war in decades.
To quote our former President Bush, stop waving the Constitution in my face. It's a piece of paper. There's that version of how you should run America, or you take Obama's version, which he studied the Constitution, taught the Constitution, got out of an illustrious college, and could have gone into making high finance in Wall Street, but he chose to be a community organizer.
Do you think Obama's going to come down hard on the big banks?
Not as hard as I want him to, but he's going to do more than the other guy would, and that's what I'm stuck with. I mean, Ron Paul's not going to get elected. I wish he could, or I wish he could have a position in the cabinet. Why the Republican Party has alienated the only politician that energizes the base, excites people, has real ideas, and can tell you how he wants to do them and bases them in constitutional law, I don't know. But they do, because what they really want is not what Ron Paul wants.
They will support Obama no matter what he says, just like
these were the same people that were protesting Bush. You know, we saw them. We saw the same people there protesting war, and legitimately so. But now, here we are with Obama in office, and they remain silent when all these wars. We got Libya, we got Syria, now we're in Africa. Is that crazy or what?
Well, Dahlia Wasfi and Cindy Sheehan, both anti-war activists during the Bush years, they said as soon as Obama was elected, they stopped getting speaking invites. It was never about being anti-war, it was about being anti-Bush. If you supported George W. Bush, you gotta love Barack Obama. No one kills Africans and Asians like Obama. Obama has killed civilians in 6 countries overseas. Did you know that? I'm full of it. I can name them.
And there you go. Sort of reminds you of North Korea with all the fake crying and theatrics with the death of Kim Jong-il there with the Obama-ness in Austin, Texas. Now, moving on to some positive news, and this really is an example to all of us. Woman pulls gun to prevent smart meter installation. This is a story I wrote, INFOWARS.com. A Harris County woman pulled a gun on a CenterPoint energy worker to prevent the installation of a smart meter in a confrontation that highlights concerns about the devices being used to spy on Americans' energy use, as well as possible health impacts. And basically, you can go and watch the video in the article. What happened was this little bureaucrat from the utility company thought he could just trespass on someone's property, despite the fact they have signs plastered across it saying, no trespassing, no smart meter installation. But he thought he could just walk into their backyard and start installing this spy hub, because every other family on the block had just meekly submitted and accepted it. Well, unfortunately for him, 55-year-old Thelma Taormina didn't submit like the rest of them. She actually took a gun out and told the little creep to hightail it, which is exactly what he did. And this happened in an area of Houston, Texas. And this was after, of course, he'd already trespassed on the property, started physically grappling with her and pushing her away as she attempted to prevent him from basically vandalizing her home with this spying hub. And if you consider the stand your ground laws and the fact that he was trespassing, he refused